episode of Think Business. I'm looking forward to having Jotham Stein on the show again. Jotham, you've been on a bunch of times. I always enjoy talking about negotiation with you. You are the author of Negotiate Like a CEO. And I always love talking about it because I have a keynote that's called Think Like a CEO. And I think it's really important for people to be thinking like that. So let's talk about negotiation. I always love talking about it. And I want to start a little bit talking about, a lot of things that I'm reading and seeing about people using ChatGPT to help them with their negotiations. I don't know if you're kind of following that. If you are, great. If not, we can move on to another topic. But people using artificial intelligence computers to kind of throw in a scenario and help them with that. What are you seeing with that?
So first of all, thanks for having me back on the show. It's great to be here. I have not seen that in operation. I probably should see how it works, but I can't speak knowledgeably to it. But what I can say is you often have to prepare for negotiation.
Yeah.
And I had very sophisticated CEO, board of director types talk into a mirror sometimes, so they feel more comfortable. And so I haven't seen this AI, but if it helps somebody interact with another person in a negotiation, it's generally going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
But I can't speak knowledgeably because I haven't used it myself.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking it out, Jotham. But it's interesting what you talk about because I interviewed when ChatGPT came out, a buddy of mine who was the former head of innovation at PayPal left PayPal and started his own thing, really doing a lot of AI. And so I interviewed him right away. And one of the things he talked about is that AI, you should really be thinking about AI as your partner, somebody that can really kind of help you get unstuck in areas. So to your point, where you're talking about using it as almost like, where one person may use a mirror, you can almost use it to kind of go back and forth with and almost role play with it, thinking of it as a business partner. But let's move on. Let's move on to negotiation. We always talk about, the best way people should be negotiating. And so here we are. It's, we're recording this on March 1st, 2023. We're at the end of Q1 of 2023. The work at home COVID world is past us. And now I feel like people are negotiating, working from home versus not coming into the office 2-3 days a week, or, negotiating how they can showcase their value, maybe working from home and not coming in the office, and companies negotiating and trying to influence people to come back into the office. So let's kind of talk about that world and how that's working for people and some tips and tricks that you would recommend.
Well, that world, just like any other negotiation, involves leverage. And if the company has all the leverage, they're going to say, come back to work or we're going to fire you. Mm-hmm. And that's on one end of the extreme. The other end of the extreme is the key employee who knows everything about the software or everything about the intelligence of the company, or some really critical person, and the company has no leverage over them. And it can be in any kind of field. In that case, that's the other end of the spectrum. That person's going to be able to work mostly at home or all at home if you have complete leverage. And then there's everything in between where a company wants to keep you, but at some level, and you want to stay at home, but you really want to work at the company. And in that case, you have a negotiation with your boss, or your boss's boss, whoever it is, HR, whoever the appropriate person is. And there's a give and take. And again, it's the same kind of negotiation, the same dynamics as we've talked about in the prior times I've been here, or in other negotiations. It's just the key in this case, the widget that you're negotiating for, is your own labor. And in this case, specifically, your right to stay at home or you're needed at the office.
Right.
And so it's really context dependent. And there are negotiating skills, the same ones we've talked about in the past, that will help you perhaps move the bar in your direction if you're not at the extremes.
Yeah, let's give some reminders of what some of those are. And not only what they are, but think community, taking time to prepare. Something I hear a lot and I see a lot are people going into negotiations, not taking the space, the stillness, the silent time they need to prepare to go into a negotiation. And so talk a little bit about that, Jotham, and then kind of maybe, some of the thoughts and ideas that people should be thinking about.
It is absolutely critical to go into any negotiation knowing what I feel is your decision tree. What you're saying, John, is take time to think about it. You want to know in advance as best as you can. You want to prepare, and you want to know if the other side, whoever the other side is, says A, are you going to say X or Y? Are you going to respond X or Y? And if they say B, are you going to respond Z or A? And so forth. It's decision trees. You want to have that thought out as far in advance as possible. You also want to prepare for the interaction. And so that a lot of people, for example, don't like to negotiate, or they find it difficult to negotiate. Mm-hmm. My response to that is, okay, recognize that in yourself and then prepare for it. Yeah. Whether that preparation is, I was talking about in the beginning, a mirror, or whether it's AI, you need to for those kind of negotiations. So in anything you do, you want to think it out in advance. Otherwise, what happens is you show up in your negotiation and the other side may be a better negotiator. They may raise points that you haven't thought about, and you may get flustered. Any number of things happen. And so it's best to prepare if you can. Think through it. Work with a coach like yourself. Work with a lawyer. Work with a wizened old person who knows the stuff and has been there before. And get ideas and think about it. And nobody's perfect in a negotiation. Things go wrong. Things sometimes go great. But you're maximizing your chances of personal return. You're maximizing your return. If it's about you, for example, working at home more than at the office, you're maximizing your chances by being prepared.
I love that. I should say also your company, Law Offices of Jotham Stein, offers sophisticated legal counsel and services to employees, executives, investors, venture capitalists, and founders. And I forgot to say that just because you've been on the show a bunch of times. But let's talk about when you get flustered, right? It's everybody, whether it's in a negotiation, whether it's in a meeting, we get flustered. I shared with you one of the times you were on the show many, many years ago, almost 20 years ago. I was on a conference call. I forgot things I shouldn't forget. I was pitching something. And I had read in Herb Cohen's You Can Negotiate Anything that if you hang up on yourself speaking, nobody would ever think you hang up on yourself. So I got so flustered, I didn't know what to do. So I started talking and hung up on myself. And so, but there's got to be also some additional, if not better, ways to get back to center, to get yourself unflustered during any type of negotiation. So how are you guiding people like that?
It depends on the context and how the negotiation is taking place, all right? Because there are many, you want to have an out, you're describing basically an out. So yours is the phone, or on the Zoom, you disconnect yourself, right? That's what you would do. But if you're in person, and I encourage many negotiations, there's general rules, okay? It would be face-to-face if you can, not by Zoom and not by telephone. And I write about this in my book, Negotiate Like a CEO, and not by text, for sure not. If you're going to negotiate, the best opportunity is usually face-to-face. And so, the classic situation, if you're face-to-face and you get flustered, is, well, it's time for a bio break, right? I think I've talked about this before. That's your classic. There could be others, depending on your situation. Hey, we need to speak to X, Y, and Z because we're close to the time, or if you're really good in the person knows somebody else and you're getting something about you and you talk about the basketball game or the football game, or you divert to something else that's common, something about the person on the other side's family, if it's appropriate. It may not be appropriate, but usually the bio break is the classic. It's been 3 hours, we've been here for 3 hours, or I rushed here just to make this meeting, or, I had a great opportunity and I was meeting with another salesperson, and then I met with another salesperson who I haven't had the opportunity. Why don't we take a break? Another one's, why don't we take a break to, have a snack, or let's go down and have coffee, something like that. Again, it's in the flow. It's a game time decision, but you should be prepared for that too. People get flustered, or you get hit. You can be the most experienced negotiator in the world, and you get a piece of data or information, and you have to think about it. So it's what we're just describing is the equivalent of the speaker, like taking the deep breath, to take a minute to think about. And But that's also important to think about. That could happen in your negotiation, no matter how experienced you are. I want to go back just a second. And I want to say, if you feel uncomfortable negotiating, if that's who you are, recognize you're not alone. There's hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands. In America, there's more than millions, I'm sure. I don't know the data exactly, of people that feel uncomfortable negotiating. But it's a skill you can acquire and you can feel comfortable with. You were describing, whether it's the coach or the lawyer or the wise and old person, right. People can help you, and preparing can help you. And I want to make sure that your listeners out there, your community, if they are that person, don't feel bad. I've had lots and lots of clients over the years, many, who didn't feel comfortable negotiating, and at the end of their negotiation, they would thank me and say, I got a lot farther than I could have done myself. Yeah, and that's happened over and over and over again.
Well, it's like, I love that. I mean, it's like anything, we can't think that we can't just, this is something you can't wing. You've got to practice. You've got to surround yourself with experts to give you cues and tips on what to say, how to say it, how to respond, how to get yourself back to center. I mean, it is, I think so many times people aren't studying the art of negotiation. You've got a phenomenal book, and there's a lot of books out there and YouTubes, and there's so many things that you can read. I can't split the difference. Don't split the difference. I can't think of the name off my head, but great negotiation books. So think community. One of the things that we all need to evolve and grow is our ability to negotiate for when we need it. And be proactive and ahead of real time on that one.
Yeah, the salespeople that are really good salespeople, those people know how to do it. They do it for a living, right? And the interesting thing I want to point out to your community is some of the best salespeople in the world. I mean, and I've seen some that can close $10 million deals, $100 million deals, more than that for their company. They can't negotiate for themselves, right? And so they need help negotiating for themselves, because it's a different dynamic when you're negotiating, again, for your own widget, your own right. personal value, compared to negotiating for a company, for example, or a deal. But having said that, there are some people who are excellent at it. But most of the world, that's not what they do. They're good at something else, whether it's they're good at retail, or they're good at marketing, or they're good at writing books, or whatever it is, or they're good at being a chief operating officer of a company and keeping the company, big one, running. That doesn't mean that they're good at negotiation and negotiation for themselves. So identify that in yourself, figure out who you are and what you're best about, and if you need help, get help, and if you need just time to organize and to think it through, that's also fine. And that people do this all different kinds of ways. They write bullet points, they talk to mirrors. Now I guess they're talking to AI. They get coaches, they get lawyers. They talk to their
right.
Some have colleagues who've done this 16 times, 20 times, 500 times, a million times before, and they call them and talk with them. But there are different ways. Everybody's to get up to speed, if you will, for your negotiation.
Yeah. I love it, Jotham. It's always great to connect with you and talk to you about negotiation. Your book, Negotiate Like a CEO, that can be found on Amazon and anywhere books are sold. Let's do a quick speed round as we close. Since we last spoke, a book, TED Talk, or article that's had a big impact on you.
Since we last spoke, I can't answer that, because I can answer that by saying I've been so busy, which is probably what I said the last time we spoke. I can tell you my book is now available on Audible. So if you want to listen to my book, and like when you're driving to work, if you can't work at home anymore, you can actually buy it on Audible. So it's come out since the last time you and I talked.
Oh, good. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
The best piece of wisdom I ever received, I think it goes back to the same thing I probably said last time: look out for others and look out for yourself at the same time.
I love it.
And make sure you're doing both.
Good. I think community negotiation is such an important thing, and Jotham shared a lot today. I just want to highlight one thing he talked about, which is a decision tree. And, we all should spend time kind of building those out, and you can learn more about that in Jotham's book, Negotiate Like a CEO, that can be bought and now on Audible. Jotham, it's always great connecting with you. Tell people where they can connect with you further if they need you.
they can go to the book's website, negotiatelikeaceobook.com. And there is a contact page there. They can learn all about the book and so forth, and buy the book off that website too. But there's a contact page there, and they can type in whatever they want to type in. Goes to my assistants, and then my assistants send it to me. So that's the easiest way.
All right, good. Well, we'll have you on again soon, Jotham, and we'll talk more about negotiations. So thanks. If you want Jotham's book, check it out. It's a great one. If you need me, JonDwoskin.com. Jotham, thanks a ton. Always a pleasure seeing you, and appreciate all your guidance, advice. It's so important, everybody, to grow your negotiation skills. Check out Jotham's book, Negotiate Like a CEO. Thanks, Jotham.
Thanks for having me on Think Business Live again, and look forward to it next time. Have a great day.
You too.